First of all, I guess while people are joining, I want to thank all of you. I'm sure this is not a convenient time for many of you. So I appreciate you taking the time, whether this is your Sunday evening or earlier Monday morning, or maybe it's a little later in your day on Monday, which would be nice. But perhaps a bit of good news. I don't expect this to take the full, I believe we're scheduled for 2 hours. Certainly the material that I'm going to present will not take that long. And it's really, depends on questions that come up and that type of thing. But I imagine maybe a half hour to an hour is really what we should expect. But we'll make use of as much time as we need. Including I'm just going to give people a few minutes. I sent out an email because I know for some people they were having problems accessing and maybe hadn't registered. And so we're just going to give it a couple more minutes. And hopefully this view of the slides is easy enough to read. If I try going into presentation mode, then it's hard for me to monitor what else is going on. So I think I'll probably just show the slides in this format. Also, if you wanted to, you can download the slides. They are in the meeting materials. I'll warn you, it's quite large. It's like 20 something megabytes. There's some images, especially gather images, multiple of those showing different aspects of it. So it got a little large, and I didn't take time to try to optimize it. But hopefully you have decent bandwidth and can download that. And if you have a question at some point in time, you can put yourself in the queue, or you can put it in the chat. But maybe, I think, since there won't be that many of us, you could probably just go ahead and start your audio and interject with your question. I think if that gets unwieldy, we'll go to a more formal format, but I expect that should work. So we could just go ahead and give that a try. And Carson, thanks for the comment about Keynote. I'll give that a try, and probably not right now, but because I haven't used, I don't even know if I have Keynote installed right now, but maybe I'll play around with that before the closing. That could be handy. Yeah, I could show it as a PDF. In fact, that may be a good thing to do, although I don't think it'd be too much bigger than this. And the version that's in the meeting materials is actually the PDF. I was just going to do it in presentation mode and then realized that wouldn't work so well. Okay, I think I'm going to go ahead and get started. And again, thanks to everyone for joining. This is the start of the hackathon. It's different than most of the hackathons we've done. It's our second time going through and doing it as an online only hackathon, and really not by choice. That's just because the meeting is online, and so this is the only way we can get together. We've always supported and welcomed people to join remotely anyway, so we had some of the mechanisms in place that we needed for that. But there's some challenges with everyone being remote, and to try to help with that, we have some new tools. I'll probably spend a bit of time going over that, and then just going over the format of the hackathon in general, since it's still a relatively new thing for us to meet online like this, and we're trying some new things this time around that hopefully make it better for everyone. So this is what, for those of you who haven't been to an in-person hackathon, this is a little bit of what you could expect in that type of venue. So this was in Prague, I believe, one of our larger hackathons, and so you're missing out on obviously a lot of good camaraderie and being able to sit right with the people who you're working with. Although for those of you who were in Prague, you may remember that it got quite crowded and hard to move around. So maybe there are some benefits to us being online. You can certainly arrange your own space and time a little bit better in that regard. So pluses and minuses. The one thing that hasn't changed though is why we're here. We're still here for the same reasons, and really it's common goals here, and twofold. One is to just advance the pace and relevance of IETF standards. I think we all believe in the IETF and the work we do here. It's important work, and the IETF has a long tradition of standards. But it's also become more of a challenge, especially with the way we've seen the pace of industry move, and with what's happening in the open source communities. There's a lot of pressure to innovate more quickly. And so we want to make sure that the IETF keeps up with that pace, that really the standards we provide are not only really, really solid, but that we complete them in a timely fashion, and that we deliver them in a format that's easy for people to use. And so, to be able to flesh out ideas while you're working on the drafts, to write some code that can back that up, and to even have some code that other people can use to help them with implementing, understanding, adding support for the draft. Those are great things too. So to have those things happening in parallel with actually writing the draft is something we're really trying to do. The other main thing we want to try to do is to attract new people, and especially developers, into the IETF to help us with this effort. Not everyone who's in the IETF is a developer. Not everyone who's at the hackathon needs to be a developer. Michael, you pointed out some great examples of that in the draft that was written to capture kind of how the hackathon works. We need people who are knowledgeable in the area, and that you can contribute to the hackathon with your knowledge of an area in which you're working on a standard, or with writing code. Both are very valuable. And one of the great things about the hackathon is that it brings those people together and helps them, provides a venue for them to work together. Whether they're sitting side by side, or they're on a kind of a conference call with each other, as the case may be for this one. We really want to bring those people together and have them work with each other. Now, with everything within the IETF, it's under the Note Well. The hackathon's under the Note Well as well. If you're new to the IETF, first of all, welcome. But second of all, make yourself familiar with the Note Well. I'm not going to go through all the details of it, but it describes what you're agreeing to in terms of when you participate in the IETF, the rules you're agreeing to, and so be sure to take a look at that. I flashed it up here on the screen, but I really recommend you go take a look maybe after this to familiarize yourself with it. What I do want to spend a little bit more time on is talking about the code that you're working on. Now, that code is not an IETF contribution. It's really, the rules around the code are whatever the rules are that, first of all, your ability to work on the code. You might need to get some permission from your employer or whatever organization you're a part of, but then really you need to look at the license in the code, because that tells you your ability to contribute to the code and how to do it. So for each project, that's how it's determined. So that's with respect to the code. Of course, presentations, discussions, when we do our final presentations at the end of the hackathon, those are our IETF contributions and fall under the note well as everything else does within the IETF. So the Hackathon Wiki, if you haven't made yourself familiar with it yet, certainly recommend that you do. That's where you're going to find information about all the projects and how to contact the champions that are working on those projects. Last I checked, we had, I believe, 23 projects. I expect a couple more will be added during this week. So, and if you are a champion leading a project, keep your information up to date. If you find important pieces of information that you didn't put there before, go back and add them in. Anyone can update the wiki. You just need a data tracker account, and you must all have that now since you're on this session. Now, if you're not sure which project to join, one thing you might want to do is check out the Lost and Found. Now, this serves two purposes. One, if you've never if you're new and you're trying to figure out which project, you can just put your skills out there, and then a champion who's like looking for someone for their team can come and find you. The other thing is, a team champion, you can proactively advertise some people that you need or skills that you need. And then when someone who's new and not on a team comes to this, they can find you. So when I took a screenshot, there wasn't too much information in there yet, but that always is the case at the start. But as people start to add their information in there, it gets more useful. So I encourage you to take a look there. And Michael, I see your question in the chat. I'll get to that. There's a couple of slides on the remote networking. So I'll get to that a little later on. Okay, the agenda. We're here at the kickoff, and then after this, and for really the entire week, it could be through Thursday evening your time or into Friday, depending on the time zone you're in. All teams are free to just kind of figure out their own schedule, which they want to work on their project. With people being in so many different time zones and having different availability, we found that based on some surveys that it seemed a longer period where people could pick and choose time within the week to gather together and work was better than like forcing a set period, like long periods of time each day. So that's up to you, not only when you meet, but exactly how you meet. And there's a link here to the team schedule. So that's where team champions, please, put when and how you want to meet, and then other people who want to join your project can meet that way. If you don't have it there already, that's no problem. You can have some discussions with your team, figure out what tools you want to use. You are welcome to use Gather. Some of you got experience with that from the last IETF. We have a space set up that I'll show you a bit about. If you want to use WebEx, you can request a WebEx account so you can set up WebEx meetings. If you want to use, some other conferencing tool or not even use a conferencing tool, whatever you want to use for your team, that's perfectly fine. You could use Slack, for example, but it just helps to have the team agree on the timing and how to meet. And then on Friday at the same time as this kickoff, so for some of you, again, it could be Thursday evening, that's when we'll have our closing. And that's when every team has the opportunity to present what you did. And it's a great way to have a summary that you can share with everyone, but especially, obviously those who weren't working on your project, so they get a better idea of what you did, and that then they can come to you and meet with you for more in-depth questions and conversations around it. Okay, looking a little bit more at Gather. So this is kind of a zoomed out view of Gather, showing not the entire space, but a good chunk of it. And you can see Hackathon/Lounge. That's these tables over here in gray. And that's the space that now you can actually use any space here the whole week. But to help us as a critical mass of people get together, we have all these tables, and the thought is that you can use those tables to, you can designate one for your project, and you can use it as a space to meet. If you need more space beyond those tables, you can really use any table anywhere within this whole space. So we don't envision running out of tables, but if that does happen, it's not a problem. Zooming in a little bit, this is more like the view you would see when you first enter. And if you haven't tried yet, you will be asked for your data tracker credentials. So if you've already signed into the wiki or something like that, it's great. It uses single sign-on, and you can use that to join Gather. So I just tried it before this meeting. It's a pretty seamless experience as far as I can tell. Hopefully that works well for you. And yes, oh, did I say the left? The hackathon is to the right. You are correct. If I just go back, I don't know if I said. So yeah, that is the hackathon, the gray area to the right there. And here it's also to the right. So as you go over toward that space to the right, you can see there's a sign that says, it's kind of small, depends on how good your eyes are, hackathon tables. And if you get up close to that, you can actually interact with that sign, and you can use it to get access to the team schedule. To be honest, I'm not sure if we were trying to get the team schedule embedded within that sign. Worst case, it's a link, and you at least have the link, and you can go to the team schedule. And what you'll find there then is, teams have the ability to say, hey, we're meeting at table E or B or wherever, and you can use that table. Now, when you go over to one of the tables, you can see I'm over here by table B right now, and there's some items on the table you can interact with. What you see lit up in yellow there, that is a shared document, basically the CodeMD that we use for note-taking, shared note-taking in the IETF sessions. You can interact with that. So you get close to it, you press on the X key, as it says down there at the bottom, and then whoever's interacting with it, you can have like a joint session around it. And that should be persistent, and you should be able to use it. So that's one way for your team to collaborate if you want to use that. Some of the other tables have these whiteboards. Interaction's the same, you press the X, and there's a whiteboard. The whiteboard's kind of cool in that, it lets you draw shapes and diagrams and that type of thing, like a regular kind of whiteboard tool does. So you can decide what's better for your team. We have a limited number of these due to some restrictions as to what you could actually do in the Gather environment. So all tables have one or the other. So just kind of pick the one that works better for you. You could, of course, get greedy and take 2 tables. And as long as space permits, you could go for that if you really wanted to. And aside from my brief little description, there's a complete guide for Gather. So a link to it's in the wiki. I recommend you go take a look. I played around with it a little bit, seemed pretty intuitive, seemed to work well. I didn't even talk about the, when 2 people get close to each other, you're entered into a kind of an audio and perhaps video if you enabled a conference with each other. And that's really handy. So you could all sit around a table and interact with each other that way. So you don't even need to use another tool if you want to just use Gather. Give it a try. Now, one thing I'll warn you about, we are limited during the hackathon to only 50 concurrent users. Due to people working at different times, different time zones, we think 50 will be enough. If it's not, we can figure out another plan. So if you end up trying to join Gather and you get some kind of error message about, we've already reached capacity, let us know, and we'll see if we can find a solution for that. Okay, I'm going to move on. And now to the network request. And, I think this is really cool. This is something that we worked on thanks to the NOC team for the previous hackathon, and it's working just even better for this one. So the idea is that you actually, for many projects, you need access to a shared network. Many times we configure like a switch at a table, and then people can actually plug devices into it. There may be some special networking requirements that they have. For example, the IETF network is very, it's great in that there's very few restrictions. There's not a lot of filtering that it does. So you basically have unfettered internet access. But maybe you actually want something more than that. Perhaps some of the, like you want an IPv6 only network, or you need prefix delegation or something like that. So there's various things you can request. And the requirement is you need a Raspberry Pi, and there's some different models that are supported there. I actually have a Raspberry Pi 2 that only has one network adapter on it. And so the wireless works, but I can only connect wirelessly. If I want to connect another physical device into it, I need to get a little adapter, like a USB to Ethernet adapter. I haven't actually tried that out, but I understand that should work if I acquire one of those. So if you need to plug a device into the network, you can do that. And each team can your champion can request this for your team, and you can have your own little network space that's carved out where you can all have the same capabilities and share that with each other. The way to request that and anything that you need from it is through this link here. And the NOC team will get you set up. If there's something that you want and they can't provide it, well, no harm done, that they'll let you know that too. So yes, a great question about Gather. I think it is helpful to close your window when you're not using it. But to be honest, I don't know. I think the yellow moon mode, I don't know if that keeps you active as a user. I would say to play it safe and to free up resources for other people. If you're going to be gone for an extended period of time, I would just probably, exit the space or close the window. But I don't know for sure, so we'll have to look at the guide and see exactly how that works. I didn't look into it in that detail. So great question, but sorry, I don't have that answer. Okay, I'm gonna move on. So the project presentations, I mentioned those. These presentations will be at the closing. So this will be Friday or Thursday evening for you, depending on where you're at. It's optional, but I highly recommend that you do it. And the reason is a couple different things. One is it kind of forces you to summarize what you did, which I think even you'll find helpful, but certainly the rest of your team. It's a good way to have a short summary that you can give to anyone to show what you did and explain to them the benefits of it or the impact it should have on the internet draft that you're working on or that they're working on. So it's really helpful. And then to be able to present that live at the closing is a great thing, but then we'll record it and other people can look at the recording and download your presentation, and that's really handy. So, depending on how many we have, that's how we figure out how many minutes each presentation will be. Last time we set a 5-minute maximum so that we just don't keep people here all night. And we'll probably do the same thing with the number of projects we have and the number of presentations I anticipate we're going to have. I think 5 minutes will be okay. And if we have somewhere between 10 to 20 presentations, we should be able to get through them all without any problem. And the way you'll present is actually just right here in Meetecho. You'll be presenting your slides just like I am. So you'll want to go ahead and familiarize yourself with that aspect of MeTech a little bit. Now, what we do in order to share the presentations with everyone and to make it easy for everyone to access them during the closing session is we have, we load them up, we upload them into GitHub. And there is an IETF hackathon GitHub org that's been created. And within it, there is a repo for this hackathon, for IETF 109. And you can see it's labeled project presentations. That's because the idea is that's what's going to have all of our presentations that we share at the end of the hackathon. This isn't for your code. You can also put code here. And if you need a place to, you can see the MDNS responder repos down there. That was one of the hackathon projects that continues to be worked on. If you need a place to house your code, you can use this as well. And if you need to get set up with that or need any help with that, you can reach out to me and I'll help you out. But we also use it to upload our presentations. And if you already have another home for the code you're working on, that's perfectly fine. This is just here as a convenience. So if you go into that repo and you look at the README, it has the instructions. And you can see we've gone on, when you upload it into PDF just to make it easy for people to use them, and it might even help you when it comes time to present it. You do need to be a member of the IETF Hackathon GitHub org in order to be able to upload things. And then you'll have access to this repo and to other repos. So if you want to get added as a member, you can see the instructions here. You just send me your GitHub ID, now it's important for us to be, because GitHub IDs end up all looking the same and being kind of convoluted because it's a shared namespace. So I think it's a really, really helpful practice if you put the name by which you're known there. Enable two-factor authentication so we make sure no one hacks your account and does bad things, because we give you pretty broad permissions. So do those things first, and then send me your GitHub username and I'll add you as a member. And don't wait till the last minute, because a lot of things pop up the last day of the hackathon. So just do that in advance. If you already know or think you're going to want to be uploading a presentation, there's no harm in being added now. So send it to me and I'll get you added, by tomorrow. Okay, one other thing you'll find that I want to point out that's in that same repo is there's a template. And this is, I guess, mainly only helpful if you're able to work with a PowerPoint template. It's in PowerPoint format. If that's helpful for you, feel free to use it. It's a template that just, it's formatted a little bit like the presentation I'm going through now. It prompts you for like the questions and the type of information that we're looking for the hackathon. A lot of people find it handy because it's just a very simple template that you can put your information into. So it's there for you to use. You don't have to use it, but it's just there as a help. Okay, before I forget, I want to say a huge thanks to both ICANN and to Cisco and the DevNet team. Both of them have been huge supporters of this, and ICANN is the sponsor of this hackathon. So the costs are different when you run a virtual hackathon, but there is still a cost that's incurred, and we really thank ICANN. They've been a great supporter of the hackathon over the last several hackathons. So thanks to both them and to Cisco DevNet. And with that, we are through the material that I wanted to share with everyone. And so I'll kind of just open up the floor for questions. So it doesn't look like it's a question, but was there a little bit of a problem with the VPN? Was it not working? Is it something that that you just need to figure out. Let's see. It was working fine for me. I have a Raspberry Pi 2. I wasn't asking for any special features, but I just got the recipe, and I had access into the IETF network, and it seemed to be working fine. So as far as I know, everything's working. If you're having any difficulty, contact the NOC team, and they've been pretty great. Just realize they might be sleeping now, so yeah, you may need to try to get a hold of them again tomorrow. Any other questions? Any other? Okay, well, if no one has any questions, I'm going to stay on for a little bit longer, just in case, like if you haven't tried out Gather, if you want to play around with that, I'll be here. I'm actually going to try to look into the guide and find out what happens about this, a 50-person limit and the whole yellow moon mode. I didn't know about the yellow moon mode, so I'm going to have to read about that. But I hope that information was helpful. And actually, let me do one other thing while we're still here. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And I just realized I wasn't sending video, and that's really too bad, because I forgot to mention that I'm wearing this hackathon shirt from when we actually were physically in Bangkok, and I'm sure there's a fair number of you who actually have this shirt too. So hopefully we'll get another chance to go back to Thailand and to Bangkok. And for this week, maybe the best you can do is, make sure you have some good Thai food that you order or something. It was really a great venue, and I'm sorry we can't be there. But hopefully the hackathon can still work really well, and work well for some people who wouldn't have been able to travel, and it may actually help in that regard, because now we're all kind of working on a more equal footing, and we have some good resources like the networking capability that's there. So what I was going to do is try taking a look at the wiki. And, okay, that didn't work so well. I see, but as soon as I do this, maybe that'll fix it. So let me show the wiki. Can you guys see the wiki? Am I showing that okay? Okay, I'm going to go back to it again. Great, thank you. So, this is really your source for information. I recommend going here. Of course, you can always contact me, but I may be sleeping. You can send me an email, and I'll try to help out too, or just send an email to the hackathon list. That's probably a great bet. If you haven't subscribed yet, here's a link for how to subscribe. What I wanted to point out was the team schedule. And if you go there, I see a number of teams have already put up their information. So take a look at that. And again, I expect this to get updated during the week as schedules get figured out. But I think this will be a good way for teams to meet. And try Gather. I'm going to experiment with it a bit during the course of the week. From what I saw, it looks like it could be a really good way for teams to meet. So I would try giving it, give it a shot. I'm not saying it needs to be the only way you work together, but it can certainly augment you're working together. And so I would play around with it, and we'll have that space up not only for the hackathon, but it'll be up, of course, for the IETF meeting. So get familiar with it. It's a good way to hopefully replace some of that interaction that normally happens when we're physically together in the same space together. So the more we try these things and learn how they work and what things they don't do well, the better we'll be able to, figure out what to do at the next hackathon, the next meeting. Because we already know the next IETF meeting will also be virtual, or online. So it'll be good to learn for that. Yeah, I think Michael, I'm just going back and looking at some comments. So you mentioned the wired access working. It should work. Like I said, I haven't tried it yet, but it should be able to get it working. And I think just check in with Clemens, and if it's not working at the moment, or if there's some restrictions to it, we should be able to figure that out. But my understanding is, depending on your device, and you should be able to get to work with any device. Actually, you just may need one of those adapters. Service browser. Okay. Yeah. So I don't know. I haven't figured that out for the driver, but check with Clemens, because I know he had some experience with it, and I thought he started by testing out with a Raspberry Pi 2. And because that's what I had, and he was letting me know about what I would need if I wanted to get it working. So I'm pretty sure it works, but there could be some peculiarities or limitations to adapters. I didn't understand the question about service browser on Android finds nobody.
Talk about that. Send video.
Sorry, what was that?
I'm just going to talk. How about that?
Yeah, that's great.
So yeah, so my phone. Let me see. Let me see. Can you see this? If I do this, does it work? No.
Yep.
You can't see it. Yeah, I kind of see it. Yeah. So if you can see, I got an IP address. You almost can see it.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, so I ran a multicast discovery, and it tells me that there's nothing there, which may be because there's nobody out there that's answering. That's why I want to know if anyone else was on it. And because the protocol that we want to test uses multicast link layer IPv6 to find each other. So if that doesn't work, then it doesn't help us, right?
So are you just on the IETF network, or are you on a special part of it that was set up for your team?
I don't know. I don't know what I'm on. So that's, I guess, the question. Are each team getting a set? Like, if we were in the room, we would all be on the same network, unless we had made a very, very, very special arrangement. Like, even when you would have tables with switches, they would still be mostly all on the same network, right? And I remember discovering that the connectivity between the wired network and the wireless network was not multicast clean at some meeting or other, when we realized we better plug all our wires into the same switch to be able to do what we want. But we had the same address subnet, so we all seemed to be on the same network. We just that there was multicast filters on the wireless, not surprising. So that's sort of like, just want to know if it's going to really be like we're all on the same LAN, and I guess you're telling me that I'd better make sure that whoever else has a VPN that the NOC knows they're supposed to be on my corner of the network?
I think it depends. Like at a normal, like at a physical IETF hackathon, we we had this space where, yeah, by default, if you just ask for a switch at your table, it should just stick you on the IETF network. But with just a physical device, connected. But many people ask for a special network so they could handle, say, they wanted IPv6 only. They wanted something special where they wanted to be isolated, and that they wanted a different behavior. They wanted prefix delegation, for their subnet. And
we got prefix delegation enabled. It was enabled for the whole network by the last time we did that. It wasn't, you didn't have to ask for it even.
Okay.
I can't do it on my phone, so I can't test it, and I can't do it on my device because I don't have wires working. I suspect that I just have the wrong USB dongle, and I've been searching drawers for a better one and see if it works better, but I don't know yet. So, and the other thing, I don't know how many people have it, but there's no, we at least, what's his name, can log into our device, but I can't. Clemens can do it, but there's no local login, so I can't debug anything. So that's fine.
Okay. I'm trying to connect to the IETF virtual, and it's not working for me at the moment. It worked the other day.
It didn't work for me. It didn't work for me the first time I booted. And I didn't know the password, which is IETF. Because it had to be longer than 4 apparently. So it didn't work at all the first day. After I power cycled earlier Sunday for me, it worked for a minute or less, and then it would disconnect. And that happened several times, and then about an hour ago it just started working perfectly. So
okay, I think we'll have to ping Clemens.
Yeah, I'm sure. I don't know what time zone he's in. I'm guessing West Coast, but maybe it's Europe.
No, he's in Europe.
Okay, so he's asleep somewhere probably.
Yeah. So I just rebooted my device, and it looks like it's working now too.
And if you hook up a serial console, you can watch it boot, but you don't get much information from it, unfortunately.
Oh no, I'm not connected to that Wi-Fi. I'm still not able to join the IETF network off of my device. So yeah,
I'm curious how many people intend to use the VPN who are part of this meeting. I'm just curious. Maybe you just put your hand up or something.
Oh, I'm on now. It connected.
The latency is not good, like 100 milliseconds, but what do I expect for going across the planet several times? Yeah, I did a speed test on it, of course.
Yeah, and it should be able to handle, I don't think load is a problem. I just think, the speed's not going to be fantastic, but okay. So I have 2 devices on it now. I don't know about if there's something special I need to do to get my devices to answer your multicast request, or if they'll just do that by default.
Depends on your device. Phones don't always say who they are, but
so you still see no devices out there?
I don't know. I have to look again. Oh, yeah, no, I see home sharing, companion link, ATC, Apple Mob Dev 2. Do you have an Apple device connected?
Yeah, I have an iPhone and I have a MacBook Pro.
Well, given that I just saw those things, MacBook probably, and one's ending in IPv4 2818. Charles's MacBook Pro, that's got to be yours. So that means that multicast works and service discovery and link local works. So that's fabulous.
Okay. Great. So when in doubt, reboot.
Yeah, so that's great news, and it also means that we didn't do any special thing to be in the same group, which means that whoever hooks up their VPN we can probably all see each other until we start knowing each other to the point where we have to do something isolated.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, that is fantastic.
Okay, anyone else? Any questions? Otherwise, I may actually declare a victory on that note and sign off for the evening. Okay. Well, thanks to everyone for joining, and good luck with the hackathon. I'll be monitoring email. I'll be in the gather space from time to time. I'm not going to be there 24/7, but I want to be able to play around with it a bit. So
Charles,
good luck with your projects. Look forward to a good week, and let's see what we can get done this remote fashion of hackathons.
What time zone are you in, and what times will you be around?
So I'm in Pacific time, U.S. Pacific time, and probably from like 7 in the morning till 4 in the afternoon. Will be pretty typical. Not gonna. I'm still gonna be doing my day job when I can. So, but I'll be around.
Okay, thanks, Charles.
All right. Well, thanks everyone. Have a good evening, good morning, whatever the case may be, and talk to you all again soon.